First story. I caught my wife of 28 years cheating with my best friend on my bed. I snapped and kicked him out of my house naked. And my wife had the audacity to blame her cheating on our son's death. I'm not sure how to begin. My life feels like it's been completely turned upside down in the past couple of weeks, and I'm still trying to process everything. I'm a 58-year-old man, married to my wife, who's 56, for the past 28 years. We've been together for 35 years in total. It hasn't always been perfect, but we've built a life together that I thought was strong. I trusted her completely. Now, I feel like I don't know her anymore. 8 months ago, we lost our only child, our 24-year-old son, in a car accident. He was the center of our lives. A truck driver ran a red light and hit his car. He died instantly. The call from the police shattered us. I've been struggling every day since, and my wife has been too. We've both been grieving, crying, and trying to find some way to keep going. We've had many long conversations about our son, sharing memories, and how much we missed him. We agreed that life would never be the same, but we thought we had each other to lean on. 2 weeks ago, I came home early from work. I wasn't feeling great emotionally and thought I'd spend some time at home with my wife. Her car was in the driveway, which wasn't unusual. When I walked inside, the house felt strangely quiet. Normally, she's in the kitchen, watching TV, or moving around somewhere. I called her name, but there was no response. Then I heard a door slamming sound. I went upstairs and saw that our bedroom door was shut. That was odd. We almost never close our bedroom door unless one of us is changing clothes, and even then, it's rare. My first thought wasn't that something was wrong in that way. I panicked a little, thinking that maybe something had happened to her. I started imagining things like her collapsing or someone being in the house. I called her name again, louder this time, and waited. After a pause, she answered. But her voice sounded strange, like she was nervous or something. She told me to give her a minute. That was unusual for her. I asked if she was okay, and she repeated that she'd be out in a second. I stood there, confused, waiting for her to open the door. It felt like she was taking forever. Finally, she opened it, but only enough to step into the doorway. She was blocking my view of the room. Her hair was messy, and she looked flustered. I asked her what was going on, and she said she was organizing some stuff. That didn't really make sense, but I didn't push her. A part of me even thought maybe she was planning a surprise for me. My birthday was coming up, and I figured maybe she was wrapping something or hiding a gift in the room. I told her I'd wait downstairs so I wouldn't ruin whatever it was. But as I started to leave, something felt off. I glanced into the room behind her, and nothing seemed out of place. Then I noticed the bathroom door was slightly open, and I thought I saw movement. I didn't think much of it at first. I assumed maybe she'd been cleaning or putting something away in there. But as I walked closer to the bathroom, I saw someone inside. I froze for a moment, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Then I realized it was my best friend. He was in my bathroom, naked, trying to put his clothes on. I stood there in complete disbelief. My brain couldn't process it. I felt like I'd been hit with something heavy. My wife just stood there, looking like she was about to cry, while my friend was frantically trying to dress. Something snapped in me at that moment. I didn't wait for him to get dressed or try to explain himself. I grabbed him by the arm and dragged him out of the bathroom and down the stairs. He was stumbling and trying to hold his clothes, but I didn't let him stop. I opened the front door and shoved him out onto the lawn, still half naked. He tried to say something, but I cut him off and told him to get the hell off my property. When I went back to the bedroom, my wife was sitting on the bed, crying. I asked her why. She didn't have an answer. She just kept saying, "I'm sorry." I told her I didn't want apologies, I wanted an explanation. She said she felt lost and didn't know how to cope with our son's death. She said she wasn't thinking clearly and made a stupid mistake. She claimed it wasn't about love or wanting to be with him, but about trying to escape the pain for a little while. I didn't say much after that. I grabbed my keys and left the house. I didn't know where to go, so I just drove around for hours, trying to figure out what to do. I eventually ended up at a hotel. She kept texting and calling me, apologizing and asking me to come home, but I didn't respond. I needed space to think. The next day, I went back home. I asked her to tell me everything, how long this had been going on, if it was just a one-time thing. She swore it only happened once, that she wasn't in love with him, and that it didn't mean anything. She said she was struggling with grief and wasn't thinking straight. I've spent the last 2 weeks trying to figure out what to do. I feel completely lost. This was my best friend for over 20 years. He was part of our lives for so long, that I never once doubted his loyalty. I keep replaying interactions in my head, wondering if I missed any signs, if there were moments when their relationship crossed a line. My wife claims it was just a horrible mistake, but I don't know if I believe her. I asked her to see a therapist and to get evaluated for anything that could explain what she did: depression, anxiety, anything that might have clouded her judgment. I even pushed for a physical exam to rule out things like hormonal imbalances or brain tumors. But nothing came up. She's healthy. I've thought about divorce. I even talked to a lawyer about what that would look like. But I'm scared of what leaving her might do to her. She's been fragile since our son's death, and I worry that losing me too might push her over the edge. She said as much, that she wouldn't be able to handle it. At the same time, I don't know if I can ever trust her again. I still love her. We've been together for 35 years. We've been through so much together. But every time I look at her, I see her in bed with him. Every time I think about my friend, I feel sick. I don't know how to move forward. Can a marriage survive this kind of betrayal? Should I even try? Or is divorce the only option? I don't want to make the wrong choice, but I also just want to find peace again. Any advice would be appreciated. Comments. Comment 1. Are you seriously considering staying with her? She not only cheated on you, but she did it in your bed, with your best friend, while you're both grieving the death of your son. She's blaming her betrayal on your son's death, as if that justifies any of this. Wake up, man. She's lying to your face, and I guarantee this isn't the first time. Divorce her and protect yourself before she destroys you even more. OP, trust me, I'm furious. I don't even know how to describe the level of anger and betrayal I feel. The fact that she had the audacity to blame this on our son's death is something I'll never forgive her for. I just feel so torn. I've been with her for 35 years, and part of me can't imagine just throwing that all away. But I hear what you're saying, and you're not wrong. I'm looking into divorce now. I'm scared about what comes next, but I can't keep living with this level of disrespect. Comment 2. Why are you still in the same house as her? She literally spit in your face by sleeping with your best friend in your home, behind your back. She's not the woman you married anymore. Kick her out. Protect your finances, your house, everything. She doesn't deserve a single ounce of your kindness after what she did. Don't let her manipulate you with crocodile tears and what ifs. OP. I've been staying at a hotel because I can't stand to look at her right now. I hear what you're saying about protecting my finances in my house, and that's part of why I talked to a lawyer. I've been handling all the finances for years, so I know what's where, and I plan to protect what's mine. As for kicking her out, I don't know. Part of me feels like I should, but then another part of me feels guilty. I know how weak and fragile she's been since our son died, and I'm worried about what she might do if I force her out. But you're right, she didn't think about any of that when she betrayed me, so maybe I shouldn't be worried about her feelings now. Comment 3. You're doing everything wrong, man. She's playing you like a fool. She made her choice the second she locked that bedroom door with your friend inside. Why the hell are you worried about her emotional state when she clearly didn't give a damn about yours? If you don't divorce her, she's going to bleed you dry emotionally and financially. Get out now. Kick her out of your house and let her figure out how to survive without you. You owe her nothing after what she did. Update. Since I posted, I've taken some big steps. I met with a divorce lawyer, filed for divorce, and started putting things in place to protect myself. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do was tell my wife it was over. Saying those words to the woman I've spent the majority of my life with felt like ripping my heart out. 35 years together. Nearly 3 decades of marriage. All the ups and downs we've been through, the life we built together, it's hard to let that go. Part of me still can't believe it's come to this. But I keep reminding myself, I didn't ruin this. She did. She destroyed the trust we spent decades building. She's the one who chose to bring my best friend into our home, into our bed, while we were both grieving the loss of our son. I've been replaying everything in my head, trying to figure out where I went wrong, what I could have done differently. But the truth is, no matter how much I loved her or how much I supported her, I can't control the choices she made. This is on her, not me. When I handed her the divorce papers, she cried. She begged me to reconsider, saying she would do anything to make things right. But there's no going back from this. I told her calmly that I couldn't stay in a marriage with someone who betrayed me like this. She tried to use our son's death as an excuse again, but I shut that down. Grief is not a justification for betrayal. I've been grieving too, but I never once thought about turning to someone else. She could have leaned on me, but instead, she turned to him. After some back and forth, she finally accepted the divorce. I think she realized there was no saving us. I told her I wasn't trying to leave her with nothing. But I wasn't going to let her take everything either. We own 2 houses, the family home where we raised our son, and a smaller second house that we bought years ago as a rental property. I offered her the second house. It's fully paid off and in good condition, so she won't be homeless. I also told her I'd help her financially for a while. She hasn't worked since our son was born, and I know it'll take time for her to get back on her feet. Part of me struggles with this. Why should I help her after what she did to me? But I keep coming back to the person I want to be. I loved her for 35 years, and even though she hurt me in the worst way imaginable, I can't just leave her with nothing. That's not who I am. All I asked in return was that she not fight me over the family home. That house holds so many memories of our son's birthday parties, Christmas mornings, even the little things like him running down the stairs for breakfast. It's my connection to him, and I need it to stay in my life. She agreed not to fight me on it, which was a small relief in this whole mess. Moving back into that house is going to be bittersweet. It feels so empty without my son. And after everything that's happened, it doesn't even feel like home right now. I've already decided I'm getting rid of the bed. I can't even look at it without seeing what happened there. Once I move back in, I'm planning to burn it. I know it sounds dramatic, but I think it'll help me feel like I'm reclaiming my space. As for my so-called best friend, he had the nerve to reach out to me. He texted, asking if we could meet so he could explain himself. Against my better judgment, I agreed, because I needed to look him in the eye one last time. We met in a parking lot, and as soon as he opened his mouth, I regretted showing up. He tried to justify what happened, saying he was grieving too, and that it was a moment of weakness. He even had the audacity to tell me it didn't mean anything, and that he still valued our friendship. Hearing that was like pouring gasoline on a fire. I grabbed him by the collar and shoved him against the wall. I told him if he said one more word, I wouldn't be responsible for what happened next. I could feel the rage boiling over. I didn't hit him, but it took everything in me to hold back. I let him go, told him to get the hell out of my life, and walked away. He's dead to me now. On a more positive note, I've started looking into therapy for myself. I've realized I can't keep carrying all of this weight alone. The betrayal, the divorce, the loss of my son, it's too much to process on my own. I've also found a support group in my area, and I'm planning to attend my first meeting next week. I know this road won't be easy. Separating from my wife after 35 years feels like cutting off a part of myself. I spent most of my life with her. We went through so much together. Even now, part of me still loves the woman I married. But the woman who did this to me, I don't know her anymore. I've accepted that I can't go back to the way things were. All I can do now is move forward. I'm trying to focus on protecting myself emotionally and financially and building a life where I can find some peace. Here's to moving forward. Second story. Entitled Pregnant Still Disrespected and Humiliated OP, Holding the Grudge. OP didn't attend their wedding, now having a meltdown. OP's sister divorcing her, supporting OP's side. Using a throwaway just for privacy reasons. Sorry if this gets long at all. My sister is a lesbian and married her wife a year ago. They receive financial support from my parents, they're wealthy and generous, have good jobs, and, as such, have decided to have a baby. Currently, her wife is about 6 months pregnant, and the two of them are visiting for the holidays. I'm in college, so I don't see them very often. Yes, my parents give me financial support as well, everything is fair and square. But I'm really excited for their baby. My sister and her wife had been dating since their senior year of college, and were friends since childhood before that. I'm 7 years younger, so I was kind of left out of the loop. I never knew my sister's wife until they got married, and even then, I was swamped with my first year of college, so I didn't really ever get to know her. I was really excited, though, for this trip, since we'd get someone on one time together. Our parents live about 2 hours away from my sister and her wife, and I flew in from across the country. We're all staying with our parents, who are not yet retired. My flight got in yesterday late at night, so I slept in. My parents went to work, and my sister went to go do some shopping. My sister-in-law stayed in with me, but I didn't realize she was around until she came downstairs while I was making lunch. She's pretty obviously pregnant, and I haven't seen her since her wedding, so I was really excited to see her. She was not. I said hi and went to hug her, and she backed away. I apologized, and she just kind of looked at me weird and went looking through the fridge. I tried to make small talk with her, so I asked when she was due. She gave me a really weird look, like I'd asked what her cup size was, and then just said March and kept making her food. I said I was really excited to have a niece or nephew, then asked if she wanted a boy or girl. She sighed really loudly, said she didn't care, and moved on. My sister had mentioned that her wife had PTSD due to a previous pregnancy, so I worried that might have been it. I tried to shift the subject and asked how her work was. She set her knife down really loudly, stared at me for 30 seconds, then said, "Fine," and went into the dining room without saying anything else. Throughout the day, I kept just trying to interact with her. Offered to get her a drink while I was in the room. She just muttered no, asked what she was watching. You wouldn't know it. It was The Simpsons, and said I was really glad she was spending the holidays with us. A very begrudging, yeah, really. I thought this must just be how she is. Then, my parents and sister came home, and she was super cheery and nice to them. My dad was asking if they had names picked out, and she just wouldn't stop chattering on. My sister said she wanted a family name, and her wife insisted on a unique name. My mom pointed out that my name Anais isn't very common, but it's also a family name same as my grandmother's, and they should consider it. I said I wouldn't mind having a niece with my same name, and my sister was really enthusiastic about it. Her wife gave me a death glare. I just ended up getting the silent treatment. At dinner, I asked if she would pass the potatoes, and she didn't listen. I repeated myself. She ignored me, and then my sister told her I had asked for her to pass the potatoes. Suddenly, she was all bubbly and giggling. Guess I didn't hear. What do I do? Should I tell my sister? Directly challenge her? I have very positive relationships with my parents and my sister, and I want to be really involved with my niece and nephew. So I really don't want to go 100% no contact or anything. How can I try to resolve or at least get over this? TLDR. My sister's pregnant wife is weirdly cold and kind of short with me. What to do? Update as of this morning. So, we all had breakfast together. I sat across from my sister, between my parents, with my sister-in-law kitty corner to me. My sil actually spoke to me, but it wasn't all that positive. She asked if I was seeing anyone in kind of a snarky tone. I said no. School was really busy, and I just didn't have time, etc. She responded, well, not everyone finds someone. My sister tried changing the subject, asking my parents whether or not they'd gone to their winter home, yet they're those rich people. My sil was so nice to them. She was saying what a gorgeous house it is, how grateful she was to have been able to take a vacation there with my sister last month. My mom is easily flattered, so once my sil got started, she started gushing about her, and it was just a mush fest. After breakfast, I offered to go take our dogs for a walk. When I came back, my parents had left with my sister to go shopping again, and my sil was the only one home. She asked me how I was liking college, and I said I was liking it a lot. I majored in pre-dental, started talking about it a bit, and she rolled her eyes. I apologized for oversharing, and she said, no, it's fine. You just have a problem with reading the room, I guess. Then, she walked away. When my sister comes home, I'm definitely going to tell her about it. OP clarified why Sil may not like her. There was one thing I might be able to think of in terms of her wedding. It was initially scheduled on the day of my finals. This was prior to invitations being produced and mailed. Just their idea. So I called my sister to tell her I either wouldn't make it, or the date would have to be changed. She was really upset about it because she and her wife had wanted a winter wedding. The date seemed perfect for them, etc. I said they didn't have to sacrifice the winter aspect, just maybe move it a day back. There was a kind of big fight, and I can assume my sil got in on it. But my sister is the kind of person who likes to be liked. Think of her as a human golden retriever, and she didn't want to be mad at me, so we worked through it. Her wedding ended up being the day after my finals, which I was grateful for, and there's been no resentment or hard feelings since. My sister actually laughs at herself for being kind of an arse. Her choice quote from that time was, "You just don't have to go. It's just a test." I was my sister's Mo, and I didn't see much of my sil prior to the wedding. She'd gotten food poisoning from her bachelorette party, so she was kind of holed up for the majority of the pre-wedding hubbub. During the reception, I made a toast, talked about my sister and her wife's friendship, how we've just been waiting for the two of them to get married. They're a match made in heaven, etc., etc. She teared up, gave me a big hug, and said she was excited to be my sister-in-law. I wanted to talk more with her, but some relatives wanted to ask me why I chose the college I did, so I went to go talk to them. I'm probably going to bring this up with my sister either today or tomorrow. It all depends on what my sil is up to. Update recovered through Reddit. So, I didn't get the chance to talk to my sister. When my parents came back from shopping with my sister, my mom started saying how she had the perfect onesie for her granddaughter. Before my sil could start gushing, I asked what my mom meant. She asked if I hadn't heard I'd be having a niece, and I replied I hadn't. My sister said it was weird because she'd asked her wife to tell me once they'd gotten the ultrasound. Her wife had zero excuse and had the most deer in the headlights reaction. There was something that just sort of snapped, and I started crying. I felt kind of spoiled and horrible for it, so I apologized and went upstairs with the dogs. My parents came upstairs, and my mom went to go ask if I was okay, and my sister and her wife started shouting downstairs. My mom basically said that my sil does not like me, and that it wasn't really my fault. She's just bad with people she doesn't know and took it out on me inappropriately. And yes, my sil was still pissed about the wedding date thing, which just made it worse. I felt really SHTTY and just like really bad. Part of it wasn't my fault, but part of it was my fault. And apparently my sister knew about both issues beforehand and had given my sil directions to try and get along with me. They were still shouting downstairs, and I was kind of bordering on a meltdown. So I asked my mom if we could take the dogs for another walk. We went out the back, and when we came home, my sister had left the house to cool down, and her wife was upstairs. I spent most of the rest of the day downstairs until my sister came home. She had obviously been crying and was in a bad mood. My mom took her into the kitchen to try and calm her down, so I kept sitting in the living room. I felt like a bratty little kid again. Like, I genuinely felt like I'd F'd up my sister's marriage and probably ruined our relationship in the process too. Everything just felt awful, and when my sister came out of the kitchen, she didn't even look at me. She just went storming back upstairs. Her wife started yelling first, and they were fighting for a while before it got quieter upstairs. My mom, dad, and I went out for dinner, and when we came home, my sil was waiting for us. My sil apologized to me, saying she had been petty and rude, and that the wedding date thing had been a non-issue. I said it was okay if she was upset about the wedding thing, but I wish she had let me know. She said it wasn't that easy, since my sister would basically take a bullet for me, and it had caused them a big fight before their wedding. I said I had no idea, and that I was sorry to be the source of that tension, and I just wanted to be able to be a good sister-in-law myself and be a good aunt. My sil got angry and said I had ruined the opportunity for the first one, and she wasn't banking on the second one. Then, she stormed upstairs, and she and my sister got into another big fight. I felt awful. The bad feelings manifested physically, and I spent most of the night throwing up while my sister and her wife fought. My mom was really kind to stay up with me, and my dad tried to get my sister and her wife to get off each other's backs. I specifically heard my sil shouting, "Who would you jump in front of a train for, me or her?" And my sister responded, without missing a beat, "My sister, no questions asked." They got quieter after that, and my sil started up the screaming about an hour later, saying, "I'd let all my siblings die for you." My sister slept on the couch, and the two of us went out for breakfast in the morning. She basically said that after my sil gave birth, she and my sister were going to separate. They would try counseling prior to the birth and afterwards too, but if things weren't getting better, they'd be divorcing. I said that it shouldn't have gotten that far, and I was sorry for pushing the both of them. My sister said that my sil does this to all my sister's friends, and they've been fighting often. But she clarified that the way she treated me was a deal breaker. She said it might have sounded sad, but I was her best friend from birth, and she wouldn't let me not feel welcome like that. I felt really guilty and started crying again. She kept saying she wanted it this way. Their relationship was broken as is, etc. It's been tense and awkward ever since. My sil won't look at me or speak to me, and I've given up. My sister has been by my side a lot and has amped up the good sister behavior 10x. I feel like SHT. Everything is really terrible, and I'm sure I'm going to be making another post during the actual Christmas bullshit. Not a great update, but there we are. TLDR. My sister and her wife are separating because of my sil's behavior towards me. Third story. Grandma's entitled friend blabbered about how illegal immigrants ruined his country. So my grandma, a Holocaust survivor, gave him a reality check. I thought I should share this because my grandma's pretty awesome. So, for some background, my grandma was born in Poland, and although very young, she remembers basically everything that she experienced. She was hidden and moved around Poland and into France during the entire time of the war and spent time in a DP displaced persons camp in Germany after the war. The only way for them to escape Poland was using fake papers, and they would eventually end up in Australia, where from there she would marry my grandfather in America. Now they are pretty well off, and many would consider exhibiting the American dream coming from nothing. My grandma has an American accent, and would never expect that in her childhood, she experienced some of the worst crimes known to man. Story time. My grandparents are at dinner with some friends and their friends. Now, the husband of friends starts talking about immigration and spewing all sorts of nonsense propaganda. Illegal immigrants are taking jobs, bringing over crime, saying people, and destroying democracy. You know, a bunch of nonsense. So my grandma, the elegant, sophisticated woman that she is, goes, "Before you continue, I thought there was something I should tell you. I was an illegal immigrant and would have been murdered if not for my fake papers. Would you have preferred that I was killed all those years ago?" The look on the guy's face. I just wish I was there to see it. After that, she spent like 20-30 minutes describing how she witnessed her entire family, except for her parents and sister, get slaughtered and had to live under floorboards for years, almost get blown up on multiple occasions, and hear the deafening screams of her cousins as their parents are taken away, and then cut short with the sounds of gunshots ringing. Let's just say the other guy retracted his statements on immigration and started to rethink his entire personal philosophy. Proud grandchild. Edit. Thank you all for saying such kind things. I'm seeing her for Hanukkah in a few days and plan on showing her everyone's messages. We'll update the post with her reaction. Edit 2. For those wondering, the United States government makes it extremely difficult for those seeking asylum to actually get refugee status, especially from the Americas. Due to this fact, many illegal immigrants are those that are trying to, or should be classified as, refugees. Relevant comments. Miss Marian Mac. Your grandma sounds like an extraordinary person. Do you happen to know which DP camp she was in? My grandparents, a Dutch social worker who had spent the war hiding Jewish kids, and an American soldier who wanted to get out of the military ASAP, met working at a DP camp. They got married there too. Her wedding dress and their wedding cake were made by refugees, and most of the people in attendance at the wedding were refugees. OP. She was in Galingen to my knowledge. Funny enough, my other grandmother's parents got married in a DP camp as well. Update. I want to thank everyone for saying such kind words and sharing your own stories and ones that you have heard. I read many aloud to my grandmother, and with tears in her eyes, she told me some more stories that I thought some might find interesting. They are miscellaneous, so they aren't in chronological order. Story 1. My great-aunt was born during the war, and relatively soon after she was born, the house they were in was BM bed. My great-grandmother then used herself as a shield, covering her baby, not even realizing that shrapnel had punctured her knee until blood started getting everywhere. It was a Christian who went out and got penicillin illegally and helped wrap her leg. Story 2. One time my grandmother and her immediate family were caught by an Enzai. My great-grandfather then went to the Enzai and tried to empathize with him, asking if he knew what it was like having kids. After giving up any jewelry they had, the Enzai soldier agreed to let them go. Story 3. My great-grandmother on many occasions said to my great-grandfather how she couldn't take it anymore and that they should give themselves up. Every time, he just said that tomorrow will be a better day, even though it never was. On the other hand, my grandmother was very young, born in 1938, so she didn't really remember what life was like before the war ended. It wasn't until after the war that she not only found out she was Jewish, but also realized not every child grew up only whispering and hiding. That children could actually have fun and not worry about their own safety. My family would never have survived if it hadn't been for the Christian family that risked their lives and hid them. And although she was scared by the atrocities some committed, she will also never forget the kindness others have. Thank you again for reading. Everyone's support and comments have meant so much to my grandmother. And although I had to translate some certain modern language, it has meant the world to her. We have recorded her entire story. However, I won't post it here for anonymity. If anyone is interested in learning more, there are many recordings online. And if in the area, the DC Holocaust Museum is extremely informative and powerful. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.